One for Utah football is Isaac Wilson. If you tuned into the game on Friday, and my guess is if you're listening to the show, you probably did, you saw a real unfortunate situation where third play of the game, Cameron gets rolled up on. I saw the replay. I'm like, how is he even walking? It looked like his leg had broken or his knee was exploding on him again. It was a horrible, horrible moment. And he stayed in, and he wasn't good. And do the coaches need to be a little bit more emphatic about seeing an injured quarterback out there and telling him, we appreciate your moxie, but you got to sit. You're not right. I don't know, man. I don't have answers, but we'll talk about it today. A lot of Ute fans, I don't know. Like, if you're ready to jump ship, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is the time where, as a fan base, you got to rally around these young men. I mean, Junior Tafuna was in tears after the game. I would not want to be a football player on that team this week. I would imagine practice is going to be rough. But it was bad on Friday night. And the fact of the matter is it's been bad now for a couple of games, and I think it's fair to ask questions about the entire thing. So we'll get into it today, and we'll get you ready for what's next, because there are plenty of things on the table to cheer for if you're a Utah football fan. As I referenced, Brigham Young welcomes in Arizona and throttles them at LaVell Edwards Stadium, 41-19, with Fox Big Noon kickoff in town. Urban Meyer down in Provo. My buddy Gus Johnson was in town. We're going to try to get Gus on the show. The broadcast was awesome. The building looked great. Stadium was going crazy, and BYU continues to answer questions. They're the number 13 team in the country. The Big 12 media thought they'd be the number 13 team in the conference. And now they look ahead to a Friday night toe with Oklahoma State. So do some college football on the show today, of course, as we do every Monday this time of year. If you pan out from the local stuff, nationally, some really, really fun games to talk about. K-State with a dramatic win in Boulder. Fun game between K-State and Colorado. We'll kind of get into some of the stuff that we saw up in Eugene, as Oregon is really good. That's not breaking news, but they might win the Big Ten. Ohio State's awesome. That was a high-level football game. Penn State needed overtime to beat USC. And both Alabama and Georgia a little closer for comfort than most people would have figured. Bama barely got by South Carolina, and Georgia held off Mississippi State, one of the worst teams in the SEC. So a ton of college football on the show today to get to. Good guest list for you guys today. The week in pro football comes to a close tonight, as the Bills and the Jets will do battle at MetLife Stadium. That's your Monday night game. You can hear it on our radio station right after we say goodnight. That'll kick off at about 6:15 local time. So some fun NFL action. A lot of really good local players making some big-time plays over the weekend. We'll do some NFL on the show as well. Well, if there's one team that might cheer you up right now around these parts, it is the Utah Hockey Club, who are off to a historic start. The only other, new franchise, I keep hearing expansion team. It's not an expansion team, but the only other new franchise to win their first 3 games of existence are the Vegas Golden Knights. The last team to score 5 goals or more in 3 straight games to start the season. That happened in 1918. Dylan Guenther leads the NHL in goals. Utah Hockey Club leads the NHL in goals scored. And they have been incredibly fun to watch. So we'll get to some Utah Hockey Club stuff, as we go throughout the week, as we go throughout the show. We are kind of high speed ahead to the NBA training camp situation. Camps are open. Obviously, preseason rolling along. The Jazz have looked pretty good in preseason. Don't really give a rip about that. We'll kind of lean more into our NBA coverage as the season approaches here in the next week or so. But a lot to do on the show. RSL back in action this week. They have locked in a playoff spot. They're trying to set an all-time club single-season point record, and they'll try to do that coming up on Saturday against Damir Kreilach and Vancouver. So RSL.com is where you go if you're interested in attending the final regular season match. And then it's time for MLS playoffs. So fall also brings us playoff soccer, playoff baseball, playoff soccer, NFL, obviously college football, NBA, bit of everything going on. Major League Baseball playoffs. Will fit as much of it as we can into the next 4 hours of radio. All right off the top, Eric Weddle joins us. We'll get an alumni's perspective on what's happening up on the Hill right now as Utah has fallen out of the top 25 and a fan base right now that feels like it's on the precipice of a riot. We'll get with E-Wed today right out of the gates. We'll let you hear from Coach Whitt, as we do every Monday in the college football season. Kyle addressed the media earlier today and addressed the status of Cam Rising. It's not all bad news. Karene Reed, Sione Fotu potentially back for the defense this week, which, of course, would be great. Kirk Cragthorpe's going to stop by. The Black Desert Championship. Oh, yeah, the PGA Tour is here as well. We might need to do more than 4 hours of radio if we're going to fit all of this in. We're not going to do that. But Black Desert Championship, Crags covers golf, so we'll talk to him today. Former Ute Scott Mitchell, and then Josh Furlong, who covers the Utes for KSL. So, busy show. Eric Weddle, Kirk Cragthorpe, Scott Mitchell, Josh Furlong, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and that guy who had to watch the Utes stumble on Friday and then watch the most valuable brand in all of pro football, the Dallas Cowboys, lay an absolute egg. How you holding up on a Monday, pal?
Yeah, and then the Mets lost by a touchdown or so.
Yeah, 9 technically. It was 9-0.
Not a great weekend for your guy in the sports department, but we roll on, Spence, and of course here we are to analyze it, not to wallow in it, and the Mets are already on the board, so we're recouping on this Monday, and hopefully it continues.
All right, so a lot to do. Eric Weddle will be our first guest, but before we get to EWED, courtesy of our friends at Standard Restaurant Supply. Standard Restaurant Supply is your tailgate headquarters. We still got 3 Utah home games left. Make sure your tailgate is dialed in. You can check them out online at standardrestaurant.com or go to their location at 3500 Southwest Temple. It is time now on a Monday for your opening tip. A lot of different storylines have come out of what happened on Friday night as Utah went down to Tempe and got it handed to them pretty good. 27-19, Arizona State got the win. And that, in a vacuum, is the story on Friday night. And, of course, there are elements there that we could get into. Most of the attention is going to surround the health of your quarterback and what I perceive to be maybe the worst football game I've ever seen Cameron Rising play. But he was rolled up on after the third play, as you guys know. If you haven't seen the slow motion replay, go back and look at it. Like, I am stunned that he played another down. I'm stunned that he was walking. It looked like his leg was snapped in half, and it looked like his knee is blown up. I feel horrible for Cam. That continues to be my bottom line. And, the internet bravery, the muscle, the fake muscles that internet trolls seem to have, like, lay off this kid. Is it unfortunate that he keeps getting hurt? Of course it is. Do I wish he was healthy? For sure. Do I think that's some sort of indictment on who he is? Absolutely not. Football players get injured. Cam Rising continues to get injured. And you can be sick of the dynamic because week in and week out, not knowing what's going on, but lay off him. That's what I continue to not understand. This is not his fault. Rolled up on. And honestly, there are questions that I think are fair to ask about every level of this operation. Okay, because Kyle after the game said Cam wanted to play. He badly wanted to play. Well, if we can see on television what's going on, it's hard to kind of make allowance for people that are there and not necessarily doing something about something that I perceive to be as obvious as Cameron being very badly hurt. Okay, so yes, he didn't have any zip on his throws. He couldn't move. He couldn't plant his leg. And I'm sure his hand isn't fully healed either. So I do have a hard time understanding on this Monday how he was left in the game. Now, it comes down to, certainly, bottom line, Kyle knows his program better than I do, better than you do. And so he will continue to tell you he thought Cam Rising gave them the best chance to win the game on Friday. And if Cameron's fully healthy, of course he does. But if he is not, either it's up to Cameron to raise his hand and say, I can't do anything out there. He couldn't move. He couldn't plant his back leg. He underthrew receivers, and we are not accustomed to that. Remember who this kid is. And I'll continue to remind everybody who this kid is. This is back-to-back Pac-12 championships in Rose Bowl Cam Rising. This is one of the best quarterbacks that's ever walked on campus, full stop. And how you decide to remember him is your choice. I'm not going to tell you how to fan. But to knock on him when it's just been horrific luck and also just a byproduct of how intense he is as a competitor, players get hurt all the time. It happens every week. And yes, it's happened a lot to him. But how is that his fault? That's where you lose me. I mean, there are a lot of significant things that I think came out of Friday night. And certainly the biggest news story, that which is most newsworthy, is the fact that Cameron Rising looks like he's going to be done potentially for the year because of that leg injury. The net is Isaac Wilson's your starter, like it or not. He's QB1. They're going with the kid, 18, enrolled in April. And now it's up to Isaac to be a little bit better than he was before. That's all you can do. We can't expect Isaac to look like a healthy Cam. So get that out of your mind right now. That's not going to happen. Isaac just simply, as corny as it sounds, has to be the best version of himself and try to improve every day and put in the work, like I'm sure that coaching staff is going to ask of their players this week. We're going to bring in Weddle. I would not want to be a player up there this week. I think it's going to be as intense as it's been, if not more so than a long, long time, and deservedly so. It was not good enough, okay? The dirty little secret is it hasn't been good enough for a while now. You learn nothing from SUU. Dijon Stanley was running fly routes with nobody covering him. I mean, that was an easy win. Baylor's not very good. And obviously Cam goes out, but you barely get that done. Utah State can't stop a nosebleed right now. And now you've lost 2 straight games. Arizona goes down to Provo. They get their doors blown off. And Arizona rolled up here and smoked Utah. The OK State win doesn't look like much either. It's fair to ask, after 7 weeks of college football, how good is this team? Who are they? And really, for the first time, maybe ask some serious questions about, are these coaching decisions in lockstep with what's best and conducive for progress and winning? Cam looked hurt to me. I don't think he should have been out there. And I'm sorry, I don't care if he wants to play. That decision is on you. Now, Kyle, after the game, said as much. He said the buck stops here, and I'll pause here and take a little bit of a left-hand turn. If you're on the whole, like, the game is past Coach Witt by train as well, I don't know what to say to you. It's not like he has forgotten how to coach after a couple of losses. You can bottom line most of this with one sentence. And I think any of us who actually covered the team and prognosticated about who they could be preseason said something along the lines of the following. Yes, Utah could potentially win the Big 12 if Cam Rising is under center and healthy. Full stop. Full stop. Right? Because it's not only that as of now, but it is that has the carryover effect that might be able to improve the other areas that we have to call out as less than par, including their run defense. You know, ASU ran all over them. This is not just a offense lack of production situation. They're not tackling the way we're used to from a Kyle Whittingham coach team. They also have injuries on defense. But, guys, I'm over it. For the second straight year, we have a really good team. For the second straight year, we have a team that Kyle Whittingham has actually been very effusive with his praise as far as their talent level, saying things like, this is the best talent we've ever had. This is the deepest roster we've ever had. And you know what we're going to talk about in 10, 15 years? 2022, 2023, 2 teams, 2023, 2024, I guess more accurate, 2 teams that will just say what could have been. And we'll talk about the talent, we'll talk about the depth, we'll talk about the top shelf potential, and then we'll get to the conversation about Cam Rising. As it looks like we're not going to see him play quarterback for Utah football this season or potentially ever again, barring something unforeseen, like a late season recovery, which doesn't appear to be on the table, or, yes, there is the potential of an 8th year next year, and we'll get to this in a moment, my thoughts on that. But barring something like that, fact of the matter is this. There's a chance that we'll never see Cam play quarterback for Utah football ever again, right? And so in 10 years, when we're talking about, oh, man, Utah football 2023, Utah football 2024, man, those guys had talent. We'll never know what they could have been because they couldn't stay healthy. When the conversation shifts to Cam, what will you remember? Because right now, it seems like a lot of you forgot this kid won you 2 Pac-12 championships and went to 2 Rose Bowls, okay? That's part of his resume as well. I understand the frustration. I understand the disappointment. It all goes back to expectations. What did you expect from Utah football? I can tell you I expected more. I can tell you all of them expected more. And my guess is all of you expected more as well. But ultimately, sometimes you're just wrong. And sometimes when the season plays itself out, you have a BYU team that was picked 13 at 6-0, now the 13th ranked team in the country, and a Utah team that was picked to win the conference all the way out of the top 25 with injury issues, and nobody really kind of knows what's next. It's another lesson that we learn every single year. I always tell you, all of us that do these jobs, you know, Charles Barkley has this great line on TNT whenever Ernie says, all right, let's go to the experts. What does Charles say? None of us are experts, Ernie. It's only God. we're all just guessing, and that's why watching the games are fun and seeing the season unfold. Now, Utah has 6 winnable football games left. Let me bottom line this before we break. I believe the Big 12 champ, or one of the teams in the Big 12 championship game, is probably going to have 2, maybe 3 losses. So I understand that the momentum is not with the Utes right now. I understand that me telling you there's a lot left to cheer for is probably going to fall on blind ears because of the skepticism on this Monday. I get that. But now's not the time to jump off this train, man. Like, now's the time as a fan where these young men need you, and they need you to stick around, and Kyle needs the support. And finally, before we break, a lot of people believe this might be Kyle's last year. I hope it's not. I hope he sticks around as long as he wants to. But if it is, I would imagine he's motivated to not go out the way that it's played out so far. All right, Eric Weddle is going to join me coming up next, but let's welcome in Ken from Lifestyle Men's Health. Ken, happy Monday, man.
Hey, same to you, Spence. How are you doing?
I'm good. So Lifestyle Men's Health has helped me with testosterone therapy and vitality peptides. I can highly recommend those 2 products to my listeners. Ken, tell me what your experience has been at Lifestyle Men's Health.
You know, what I want to talk about is us men in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. You know, some of us went to college, played sports, some of us didn't. But the biggest thing is, and what I love about what you say, Spence, is how it's changed the way you feel at your age. What I'm going to put out there to our listeners is, you know, you're out there, you're working out, you're just not really seeing anything. But what if you could see a transformation within 90 days of your body transforming and your mind by getting on testosterone replacement, peptides? It really is a game changer, Spence.
Yes, it is, Ken. What's the special offer you have for listeners to give you guys a call today?
Especially for those ones that kind of deal like I did with ED, the erectile dysfunction, we have half off our procedure. Now, with that said, we also have some combinations to help with the TRT and the peptide. So give them the number, Spence, and have them call in, and we'll explain what it is.
All right, guys, today's the day. Give them a call at Lifestyle Men's Health. It's 385-458-9203. That's 385-458-9203. 385-458-9203 or online at lifestylemensclinic.com. Ken, thanks, buddy.
Hey, thank you.
All right, Eric Weddle is our guest coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Utah football will be back at it coming up on Saturday night against TCU. That's an 8:30 Mountain Time kick. You can hear the game on our radio station. Pregame coverage with Porter will begin at 4:30. Then Riles and Sly and Scott Mitchell will take you from there. Our next guest, one of the best to ever do it on a very sad, somber Monday, Eric Weddle. I appreciate your time. How are you, pal?
I wish it was on better accord, but life goes on, and we're going to see what this team's all about. Unfortunate loss last week, unacceptable in my opinion, coming off a bye, and we'll see how they respond.
So, simple question: what's it going to be like up there this week for the players?
Well, the reality is of where we're sitting is there's no really dominant team in the Big 12, and a lot of people, including myself, thought we were the top dogs, and for whatever reason that hasn't transpired the way we thought. But we're right there in the thick of things. I mean, we go out and compete and put our best foot forward and start playing better football. It only takes one game, one quarter, a play that bounces the ball our way, and we get on momentum, and then we can get on a run. So the situation is not the end of the world. We still are able to go achieve some goals. Yeah, we got to go play better, and ball has to bounce our way. But I'm not. The world's not ending. We just got to go out and get back to playing the type of football that wins football games.
I agree with you there, Ed. But wondering from a player's perspective, how do you think Coach Witt handles this week? I mean, you could tell both after the game, then this morning during his press conference that he's frustrated. He looks tired. He looks like an angry Kyle. Looks like an angry Coach Witt. So this week, is it trying to focus on your point, what's left to play for, and how many winnable games are on the table, or how long do you stay in the space of what you just called an unacceptable loss on Friday night?
Well, I don't think we allow what happened on Friday night go unnoticed. I think everyone in the building needs to understand that was unacceptable. The tackling, the play on offense, you can go down every position group, and I know for a fact that those coaches are going to coach their tails off and remind everyone what the expectation is to play football at Utah. So I want that to be a motivating factor moving forward. I want the guys to look at themselves first and internally see how I need to improve so the team can improve. And you're not looking at any winnable games. You're looking at this Saturday and putting our best foot forward and get back to playing our style of football. Good, bad, or different, win or lose. I want to see the product that is acceptable for our university. That's what I would want to see as head coach, and you treat this week as such.
Coach Witt, after the game, said Cameron badly wanted to play. He badly wanted to stay in. Halftime, they went to locker room. And according to what Kyle said, Cameron himself badly wanted to play. Now, as you saw, Ed rolled up on after only the third snap. And if you watch that in slow motion replay, I thought he was done. I was stunned he even played another snap. And then as the game progressed, we all saw he didn't have it. He didn't have what we're accustomed to seeing Cameron Rising under center have. He was underthrowing receivers. He couldn't plant that foot. He had no escapability because his leg was obviously compromised. What's your opinion on the decision to let him continue to play, even though it looked like he did not have what it took on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for us to sit here and say whether that it was the right decision or wrong. Obviously, looking at it, he wasn't the same Cam, but you guys got to remember, we don't know how the practice went. We don't know how many reps Isaac got. We don't know the full situation of the injury. We know what we saw after the fact, but Cam's won a lot of big games for us. And if Cam is saying I'm good to go and I'm going to finish this out, as a head coach, you kind of have to ride on your leader and the guy that has gotten you to getting to some high points that have never been here, been a part of. So you as a head coach, and I've been in those situations, you make a decision at positions and especially at quarterback, and you keep a guy in or you pull a guy for some reason, you stand on that decision and you move forward as the head coach. So I don't second guess the decision. Obviously, you could have made the change at halftime, but he didn't, and you live with that decision as the head coach. I'm not going to sit here and second guess it.
So Kyle this morning said that, Isaac's the guy now and Cam is out indefinitely, and it sounds like indefinitely could mean all year. And Coach Witt today talked about there is the potential the Cam could come back for an 8th season. Now, once upon a time, that's a ridiculous notion, but not now, Eric, as you know, with the ability to make money. And ultimately, for me, I mean, we all went to college to try to find a career, and a lot of us would have enjoyed, the ability to make probably a couple $1 million, doing what we were doing at that age. So I don't begrudge anybody by making the right decision for themselves financially and for the future. But what do you make of the potential, if everything kind of goes right with his recovery and health, of Cam maybe even coming back next year?
No, I'm not. I'm not entertaining any of that. So good luck. Good luck to Cam. I wish him all the best. But if I were running that program, he will not be playing. Not anything other than we need to move forward with the next guy. And I appreciate everything he's done, and it's no detriment to him and what he's done for our program. But there's no way he's going to be playing another year at Utah, if it's me.
Oh, interesting. Interesting perspective. All right, so let's move over to where we're at today. The reality of moving forward is it will be Isaac Wilson under center, who at 18 years old just enrolled in school, Eric, in April. What do you want to see from this young man to indicate that he's just, improving step by step? We can't expect him to be a full season vet in his first year in school, but what are your thoughts on this freshman quarterback now taking the job?
Well, I mean, he does a lot of good things, and I want to see us tailor the offense and the acumen onto what he does really good, and that's he definitely has a good feel with the RPO game, pre-snap and post-snap reads. I think he has a live arm and can make all the throws. Get him on the perimeter. I don't want him to see a bunch of QB runs or design runs. I don't think that's something that he's really good at. I don't think he's athletic and fast enough to be a weapon back there. I want him to sit in the pocket, get the ball out, and make great throws and great decisions. So how they design that is up to Coach Ludd, and I know he can put a great game plan together. And let's go get on a run. I mean, he's a talented dude. Let's do things to accentuate those traits and get behind him as a team, and let's go win some games.
So you referenced the defensive issues on Friday night, and really you can extend it out to other games as well. And Coach Witt this morning did mention that they're hoping to get both Karene Reed and then Sione Fotu back this week. So not all bad news on the injury front, and obviously getting your guys back would help. But you obviously made a living on that side of the ball. What have you seen when the defensive breakdowns happen, and how does Utah improve on those?
Well, defense will always be come down to communication and tackling and playing together. Great defenses play together. They know where their help is. They communicate. We don't give up big plays, and we tackle the football. And you can look at any level of football, whether it's high school, college, or NFL, and you look at the top defenses, and that's how they play. So the scheme is there. It's just the influx of injuries, the in and out with guys. It happens at every level where communication or lack of playing time or experience shows up. And you got to credit the opponent as well, man. That running back ran through our defense at times. And so, yes, we can improve and get better in certain areas, but sometimes you just have to tip your hat to the opponent as well.
Yeah, it's a great point. I talked about that at the start of the show. I mean, the other guys are trying to win too, right? It's not always that Utah completely handed it over. Another bright spot, Mekhi Bernard, Eric, just went over 400. Yeah, 4 games with over 100 yards, and a lot of debate about whether or not they had a bell cow up there, and it appears they do. I think we need to kind of tip our cap and, as the kids would say, give Mekhi Bernard his flowers.
Oh, I 100% agree. He's been, you could probably say, the most consistent player on offense and as a team. Week in and week out, giving us what we need as a team and individually. It's great to see as a guy that came back and was, on the fence of coming back or not. and happy and proud of him. And hopefully he can rub that off on his teammates and get more consistent play out of everybody.
So we were hoping that Friday would be a, quote, get-right game after the Arizona loss and then a bye week. And, of course, these guys had to sit with that taste in their mouth for 2 weeks, and now there's another loss to marinate on. Let's move over to TCU on Saturday night. It's a winnable game. It's here in Salt Lake. Eric, what does a get-right game for Utah football look like on Saturday night?
A win by any means necessary. I don't get into wins are hard to come at any level, and you put a lot of time and effort, and sometimes it doesn't work out like we all want it to, and it doesn't mean it's because of a lack of effort, lack of preparation. It's just sometimes that's the way it goes. And right now, you just need to feel what it feels like to have a win. We don't want this losing streak to continue on and ruin our season. So we got to get a win by any means. Try to get back to playing our style of football in the process, get some confidence back, get some swag back, and see how it'll propel us through the rest of the season.
On the other side of things, a guy you know really well, Kalani Sitake, has his team playing some real good football. Eric, down south, 6-0 now, up to number 13 in the country. And, of course, all of us have that November 9th game scheduled as BYU will be here in Salt Lake. What do you when you compare the two situations, your alma mater, Utah, with the disappointing start, and a guy that you know really well in Kalani with how he's been able to get BYU to really answer every question they've been asked. What do you think the main differences have been with these two programs with two very different starts?
Well, huge shout out to them. I don't think anyone was sitting here saying they'd be 6-0 right now.
No way. And
it's a huge props to Coach Satake, Jay Hill, what he's doing with the defense. Their identity, you could just tell that they're playing together. They are very connected. They're connected with the vision, with how they play football, how they operate, how they go about winning football games. It is so much like a Utah team where you play great defense, you make plays on offense, you don't hurt yourselves, you make great decisions at the quarterback position, and that's how you win. You don't hurt yourselves. And it is really impressive. I look at the top 25, and I did a show this morning, and I singled out BYU because of what they've done and where they're at this point in the season. So it's going to be a huge game, and if we don't get our crap together, they can come into our house and really take it to us if we don't figure ourselves out. So huge props to them. And hopefully they continue winning and we continue winning, and it'll be a great game.
What do you make of the conference overall right now, just the Big 12? It's our first experience here. It's a new conference. I think most of us believed Utah was going to have something to say about it at the end, and they still could with winnable games on the schedule. But big picture, Eric, what do you make of the Big 12?
I look at it, and I don't see a dominant team by any means, and it's not disrespecting everybody else. It's just the reality. I don't see a team that's going to go in there against the top 6 or 8 teams in the country and have a shot against those guys. It's just the reality, I think, of the collegiate landscape. I think when you look at the playoff and look how it's trending, those top 4 or 5 teams, it's going to be the same teams every year. There's just levels to it. When you look at unbiasedly the talent, the quarterback position, offense, defense, special teams, and I look at the Big 12, and I mean, who is Iowa State? Who have they played? Are they the 9th best team in the country? You look at BYU, even though they've had a great run, they beat Kansas State at home, which was a good win at the time. But I don't think Kansas State is very good at all. They can run the football. They can't throw it, and you put them against any top 10 team that's a legit team, I think they get blown out by 40. So really, are the best teams in the Big 12 really that good? I don't know, and I'm not really looking at it as they can make any headway in the playoff just because of what I see the eye test. Now, I could be totally wrong, and rightfully so, but for me, just looking at the top teams and the talent compared to the Big 12, it's not close.
All right, buddy, before I set you loose, we'll come full circle. And, obviously you played here a number of years ago. You were an unbelievable player. You're one of the guys that 10, 15 years later, all of us still talk about, not just what you did here, but of course you're a Hall of Famer, man, NFL, Super Bowl champ, all that stuff. In 10 to 15 years, when your grandkids jump on your lap and they say, Dad, tell me about Cam Rising, what will you say? If this is the last we've seen of Cam, what does he leave behind as a legacy?
I would say Cam is one of the best leaders, the best gamers, brought Utah to heights that we had never seen, brought us to 2 Rose Bowls, made us every time he stepped on the field, made us believe that we could beat anyone at any time. And if it is his last time playing here, he'll make his mark on Utah football history. That he'll be immortalized as one of the all-time greats, as he should. And nothing but respect and admiration for what he's done for us. It's just unfortunate that injuries have caught up, and we are at this point where he's just not playing at the level that we need him to be at, and for a number of reasons, obviously. But he'll be an all-time great and a guy that I loved watching and supporting, and knew every time he stepped on the field, we had a chance to win.
Eric, thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it, especially on a day like today where a lot of folks around here have their heads down. So hoping for better games ahead, and we'll chat soon. Thank you, sir.
Anytime. Great to see you guys.
All right. The great Eric Weddle, one of the best to ever do it here at the University of Utah, went on and had a hell of a pro football career. He is on Twitter, doesn't tweet much, but at Weddle's Beard is where you find Eric. All right. The New York Mets have put 6 on the board. Wow. I just saw that. I was busy doing an interview. 6-0, Mets lead the Dodgers, bottom of the second. A couple of outs there. The Yankees and the Guardians will do battle tonight. If you missed Coach Witt's media availability from earlier on Mondays, we like to bring that back around to you, so we will at some point. It's not all bad news. Karene Reed, Sione Fotu expected to return hopefully this week. The defense needs to get healthy as well. But, of course, the big piece of news today around the marketplace is that Cameron Rising is potentially done playing quarterback at the University of Utah. If you missed those comments from Eric Weddle, I thought it was really interesting because Kyle this morning talked about the potential of Cameron coming back for an 8th year. Obviously, that would be up to Cam. And when I floated that idea out to Eric, he said, nope, not happening. Don't want him back. I don't think it was a personal shot. I just think in the spirit of moving on, Eric Weddle not interested in entertaining the option of Cameron Rising coming back for an 8th year. Once upon a time in college football, that would have been a crazy thing to consider, but now it's different. And coming up next, I'll tell you why, at least in my opinion. We have Kirk Crackthorpe, we have Scott Mitchell, we have Josh Furlong. We got a lot of good guests to get you guys through this Monday afternoon, so don't go anywhere. Let's bring in Dr. Angela Peterson from Lifestyle Men's Health. Dr. Peterson, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Spence?
I'm good. Thanks for the time today. So over the past year, you've helped me with testosterone replacement therapy, and it has made a massive difference in my life. Better energy, sleeping better. The workouts, that's the main thing. Like if any of my friends ask, like they hear a spot, like what's it really help? My workouts are so much better. As you get older, you got to drag yourself out of the house at times. And now I am excited to go work out because I have better energy. And also Vitality Peptides, it's been about 4 months for me. And incredible difference as well, like my skin, my hair, just the way I look, the way I feel. So those are the 2 dynamics I can speak to as far as what you offer at Lifestyle Men's Health. How can you help our listeners?
Well, we can do all of those things, Spence. And, in men these days, testosterone is just very low. We have very few clients that have a naturally high testosterone level. And the new recommendations now are that anything under 600 for your total testosterone needs to be supplemented, and you're going to see health benefits with that. And then with the peptides, it's all about having your body heal itself. And if Cam Rising would have come to see us, I'm sure he'd be in a much better position than he is now. So we are here to help, and we are here to get you back on track to be your best self.
We're getting Ken now. So, Ken, I'm a man in my mid-40s, and all this stuff has made a big difference for me. All due respect, you're a little bit older. How have these products helped your life?
Well, Spence, I'm in my mid-60s, and I am so proud of what I have done. And the people that know me, I raised my family there in Salt Lake, lived there for over 40 years. I was 250 pounds, I had a friend send me a there and now picture, and I said, "Hey, I changed a little bit. I mean, I weigh 175. I'm toned. I work out. Like you said, I actually love to work out. Never liked to work out before. Now I love it, and so it makes a huge difference in the quality of our life and optimizing this change."
All right, what's that special offer you have for our listeners who give you a call today?
Angela,
Go
go
for it,
ahead.
Ken. No, you go for it.
Okay, so like I talked on the last segment, we're doing 50% off of our ED treatments. But that's not the most important thing, is we're doing some combinations with the TRT and the peptides, and we're putting a package together that just about everybody can do and should want to do.
All right, today's the day to give them a call over at Lifestyle Men's Health. It's 385-458-9203. That's 385-458-9203, 385-458-9203, or online at lifestylemensclinic.com. Thank you both.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. The New York Metropolitans are putting it on the Los Angeles Dodgers. 6-0 is your score, top of the third. And the Mets have two men on, first and second, with 2 outs. So we'll keep you up to date on that game. Well, hopefully the Mets hold up their end of the bargain, Porter, because as I just referenced to you, I think the Yankees are going to win. Concerned about the pen, have been all year. Back, I don't remember the year. The Subway Series, was that 2009? I don't know. The date is escaping me, but I was living back east at the time, and I went to 3 of those games and took the subway because that's what you had to do. I still had the T-shirt. And I got to say, man, if it's Mets-Yankees in the World Series, we might have to schedule a few remotes in the Bronx or maybe at Shea Stadium. Is it still Shea Stadium?
No.
Okay, well, it is to me.
It'll
always be the Garden.
It should be.
And it'll always be it was the Delta Center when it was Vivint. Sorry, it's still Shea Stadium to me.
But, yeah, I would very much like to be there, regardless of who it is. I really want to see a Mets, whether it's a divisional series, a championship series, or a World Series. I've never seen a Mets postseason game. So that's definitely high on my list. If it were to be deep into the playoffs and against the Yankees, that would be a lot of fun. So I'm with you there. And, yeah, we would maybe have to send some emails to make that happen.
Dude, I'm getting so old. It was in 2000. I was only a decade off, 2009.
I was about to correct you, but I almost thought that was too early.
Wow.
But, yeah, it was turn of the century.
All right, so playoff baseball. Playoff baseball is awesome. I'm doing my best to bring up things that are happy today to distract Ute fans that are jumping off buildings. It's going to be okay. Some interesting comments from Eric Weddle earlier. I want to get back to those at some point. But as we do every single Monday, if you missed his media availability, here's the head coach of the Utes, Coach Witt.
Ready to roll. Okay. Tough weekend in Tempe, to say the least. I'll start out by saying that Cam Rising is out indefinitely, lower leg injury. Isaac Wilson will be our starter until further notice, and that way we don't have to address that each time we talk and let you know where it's at. And can't give you a timeline. Could be the rest of the season. I'm not sure exactly, but I know it's going to be a minute. Tough game, like I said. The positive is we got a lot of people playing really good football. We got a lot of good play going on at some positions, and our big nemesis right now is the throw game. I mean, we're just not efficient enough in the throw game. We're last in the conference in completion percentage. We're worst in the conference throwing picks. And so we gotta figure that out. And that's, our third down percentage is suffering. Our red zone is suffering. And it's really a product of not being able to be efficient enough in the throw game. We got to coach that better and put our guys in better position to succeed. And so that, if you were to say, what is the main problem with this football team? That's it right now. And like I said, we're getting a lot of good play. Proud of Dallas Vakalaki. He stepped in, true freshman, just got off a church mission, 6 months ago, and here he is playing at a very high level in a Power 4 conference, and he got his first chance to play significant snaps and really made the most of it. Defensive ends are playing well. Receiver core, very few drops, making plays when they have the opportunity. Mekhi Bernard's given us everything he's got every single week. Had another big game on Friday night. Defense as a whole is putting up really good numbers. Wasn't our best numbers of the year, but still well below what Arizona State was averaging. And so, yeah, that's really our main issue that we've got to find a way to get fixed. And again, it starts with coaching, not pointing the finger at any specific player. We got to coach better in that area. We had one punt in the game, and when you have one punt, you should score some points. But we got in the end zone one time, and so that doesn't equate. That tells you that we're moving the football, and that we're finding ways to bog down. And the field goal kicker was outstanding. Cole Becker did a great job, but typically a field goal is a consolation prize for a drive gone bad. I mean, that's what it is, unless it's end of half, end of game, a game winner at the end. Typically that is a negative if you're attempting too many field goals. And so congrats to Cole for being as efficient as he has been. He's really on a good streak right now. But again, from a team perspective, that's got to change. TCU coming in off a bye, so they'll be fresh and ready for us and hungry for a win. We know we're going to get their best shot. We feel like we get everybody's best shot, which is how it should be. I mean, we have no problem with that. But they'll be coming in here late kickoff. Again, Saturday night, 8:30, I believe, is kickoff time. They're doing some good things, particularly on offense. Well over 400 yards a game, 35-plus points a game, nearly 25 first downs. Really, what's really impressive to me is their conversion down rate, almost 50% on third down, almost 75% on fourth down. And in the red zone, they're over 80% touchdown efficient. So they're doing some really good things offensively and really difficult to stop. And so, got our work cut out for us. But again, we got to be more efficient throwing the football. In Power 4 football, at any level of football these days, you got to be able to throw the ball. Except for Little League, I guess. Maybe not in Little League. But. All right, we're going to change it up this week and have Justin go last. Maybe that'll give us better mojo. So, go ahead. So just sit tight, Justin. We'll get to you. Okay. I promise.
I don't know if I'll give you better mojo, but
couldn't give us worse. He's been giving us bad mojo back there. So,
Kyle, in retrospect, did you keep Cam in the game too long? Like, what's your thoughts been
Cam
about that?
Cam is a warrior. Wanted to play. That we really moved the ball at the end of the first half and thought, okay, even though we didn't, get in the end zone, and then moved the ball well the first drive of the second half. And Cam, we had that thought, would that be a move that we would make? But he wanted to finish, and he's a seasoned vet. He would let us know if he felt like he was not being effective enough, and so we did not make the move, and that was the decision that really our offensive coaches came to, and our coordinator and quarterback coach. So that's where we're at with that.
Kyle, given Cam's injury, he's out indefinitely, was there any conversations about potentially using that 8th-year medical redshirt waiver?
No, but there will be now. Now that we're in the situation that we're in, that's a possibility, I think. I don't know. Again, we have to explore it in detail with the compliance, and I'm not even sure Cam would be interested in going that route. He's got a lot to think about, and so just take a step back right now, let him get this most recent injury thoroughly diagnosed and on the road to rehab, and then that would be something we'd talk about sooner rather than later. Wow, that's it. I thought we were up to Justin already. Hold tight, Justin.
Come on, Justin. Kyle, with the issues in tackling, kind of where are you finding those? What's been the biggest thing for that?
Well, the running back is very good. Scattaboo is a good back. He went over 100 yards on us, a couple big plays, a couple 50-yarders or thereabouts, and he'll make everybody, week in and week out, be a little bit suspect tackling-wise because he's just so powerful. But we did miss 19 tackles, which is far above our sweet spot of single digits. But even that said, defensively we did a lot of good things, and one thing we're not doing a good job of defensively is taking the ball away. We made a living at that through the years, being a great takeaway team that sets up the offense in short field situations. We did set the offense up inside the 30 on Junior Tafuna's pick, and also we set them up in great field position with the fourth down stop, a 4th and 1 that was later in the game. But typically we do more than we've been doing with havoc plays. We call them havoc plays, sacks and takeaways, and we got to get better at that.
Coach Mekhi Bernard had a great game.
Sure did.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on him and what he's meant to your team this season.
He's been huge for this football team. He's been so consistent, like clockwork every week. He's averaging 6.5 yards a carry, 6 something. It's over 6 yards. Runs hard, catches the ball out of the backfield, picks up blitzes, has done everything. He's a complete back for us. The clear-cut RB1. Again, his workload really can't get much above 20 carries, which is where we try to keep him. but that's a lot of carries. I mean, I'm not saying that's a light load because that's a full day's work. You project that over the season, that's nearly 250 carries for the season. So he has been a very bright spot for us. And like I said, we got a lot of guys playing good football. The O-line in and of itself is playing good football. We had a few breakdowns on Friday night, but I challenge you to find any game where the O-line doesn't have a few breakdowns, with any team. And so they're being very consistent in their play.
To follow up on that, with the offensive line, Spencer Fano seems to be playing at just an elite level. What has his evolution meant to that group?
Huge, and when you're good on the edges, which is the most demanding offensive line spot is the edges. You're out on that island. You got a chance to really be good, and both him and Caleb Lomu are doing an excellent job out there. They're both only second year in the program, and you're right. Spencer is playing it at an elite level, and he's just getting better and better, and so is Caleb. So that's been a big plus. And the inside three is doing a good job too. I don't want to diminish what they're doing, but it's very demanding out there, and they're holding down the fort, to say the least.
Kyle, with the keys of the offense now handed to Isaac, what things are you looking for from him in terms of development? And with those keys, how much of that, I guess, with his improvement, would that, I guess, help him move forward, potentially being the future of this team next year?
Yeah, well, we got to try to get our completion percentage up. Like I said, we're at the bottom of the league in completion percentage, so that's job one. Actually, job one is cut down on the interceptions. We've thrown 10 this year, and nobody in the league is in double digits, and so that's taking care of the football. But then more completions, and Isaac does give us an element of the QB run game. He's pretty adept at that, and so we just got to continue. We can't forget he's a true freshman, and no excuses, because when you're out there, whoever's out there has got to get it done. But there is going to be some things that we're going to have to live with. But as long as he stays on the trajectory that he has been on, which is, we think, in the right direction, then we got a chance.
What is kind of the current midseason return on linebackers? I know obviously they've dealt with a lot of injuries, and that can be part of it. But if you have maybe a report card on including the fact they've been dealing with those injuries on the linebacker room.
Yeah, I would say maybe a B minus, maybe a B, C plus to B, somewhere in there. I know Lander feels like he needs to be more productive. It's coming from his mouth to me. He feels like he's got to pick it up, and he's playing hard, just leaving a few plays out there that he usually makes. John Hall has been a big plus for us, coming in and picking up some of the slack for the loss of Kareni and Sione Fotu. Both those guys have been down. We hope to get Kareni back. We'll see what happens this week. Sione maybe as well, but we're probably 80% of the time in a 4-2 scheme, so we got only two on the field. And when we do go that third guy, it's right now it's Trey Reynolds who is the guy until we get some of those guys back. And Trey's doing a nice job. He only had like 5 or 6 snaps, but he graded out 100%. So he does a good job for us, and he's a special team stalwart. I know that's not your question, but he's a very good special teams player right now, and I believe he's got a bright future here.
Utah and TCU had a few memorable matchups in the Mountain West.
Did.
What do you remember about that series, especially that 2008 game?
Yeah, the 2008 game was the night game. I think it was a blackout in Rice-Eccles. Brian Johnson to Freddie Brown for the game winner right there towards the end. I think we'd reached the end zone one time prior to that, maybe 0. I can't even remember. It was a low-scoring game. Was it 13-10? 13-10, something like that. And that was maybe the loudest. There's been a few isolated, well, the crowd is great always, but where it's at its peak was when we scored that touchdown. That place erupted, and that was a great game for us. It meant the championship was on the line, and we ended up obviously finishing it off with an undefeated season. But that was some great battles. I remember they boat raced us one time when I think it was game day, no game day.
I don't remember that game.
I don't either. That's right. All of a sudden, it just popped out of there. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. Power of the Force, Star Wars. Yeah.
Workout shirt,
There you go. Okay. Okay. Anyway, a lot of memorable games with the Horned Frogs, and Gary Patterson was at the helm for so many years. In fact, every one of those. And so, those stand out in your mind because they were so competitive. Excuse me.
Coach, you talked about needing more havoc plays.
Yeah.
And you raved about the depth that you had at defensive end before the season. Do you start to tap into more of that depth and create more of a rotation there?
Van and Logan Fano have really done a great job, and they've played, especially Van has played, I think, every snap the last 3 or 4 games since Connor O'Toole has been on the shelf. And so Paul Fitzgerald gave us a few snaps on Friday night, maybe should have played more, but between Logan and Van, they're really doing a nice job on the edges. Van was leading the nation in sacks at some point a few games ago. He's probably not now, but they've been very steady. And if we can get Connor back, that gives us one more weapon off the edge. But we have tapped into that depth, and that's why that position has been able to stay at a consistently high level.
So a few weeks ago, you mentioned that Rabbit Evans is someone that needs to have a little bit more experience in this defense to have a big game, and he was one of the leading tacklers on the team on Friday. What have you seen from maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that led him to have that performance this week?
More command of the defense, knowledge of assignment. Alignment and assignment was not with us in spring, so he was playing catch-up. And I've been talking about him for several weeks, and last week was the week where he had his breakout opportunity, made the most of it. He's our starting strong safety right now, and you saw him make a bunch of plays. He's a very gifted athlete, and so if we can keep him on the same trajectory and heading in the same direction, he's a guy that we think is going to be very valuable for us.
Coach, how do you kind of reinstill confidence and belief in your players after back-to-back losses like this to, kind of regroup that confidence level? Yeah,
well, we got to be positive with them, but at the same time, they got to be positive, and they got to be warriors and want to battle through some adversity. And it's not like we're 1-5 or we're sitting here with a horrific season, but we have dropped a couple games in a row, and we're not used to losing 2 in a row around here, and so we've got to put it behind us quickly because no one feels sorry for us. It's us in this building, and that's it. No one else is going to, cry the blues for us. There's not some, I think I said several years ago, magic fairy that's going to wave a wand and all is going to be right. We got to work hard on the field. We got to study. Everything that goes into winning a football game has got to continue to take place. We're not going to back off one bit on the work ethic, the workload. Some teams lose a few games and say, "Oh, let's make it fun." No, that's not how we are. We don't operate that way. We're gonna grind it out and try to right the ship. That's our challenge. Final question. That means we're to you, big guy.
Okay, with the destabilization of the quarterback position at this time, is there any thought process in getting Brandon Rose integrated into the offensive package this week?
No, Brandon is the solid number 2, but there's no plans to split the reps in the game or anything like that. And we feel like the quarterback position is stable. We just don't have Cam. It's just everyone moves up one rung on the ladder. And Isaac now knows, like he did a few weeks ago, that he's going to be the guy. There's no guesswork. He'll get all the reps, which equates to about 75% of the reps during the work week. And Brandon Rose will get the remaining 25%. If anything happens to Isaac, you will see Brandon. But unless things go really sideways, Isaac is our guy, and we feel very confident in him.
All right, there you go. Straight from the head man himself, Isaac Wilson, now under center. Just gutted for Cam, man. When I'm hearing Kyle explain the next steps where Cam has to ramp up and get ready for rehab, go read Chris Camerati's piece from The Athletic when he sat down with Cam and his family. I know I continue to send people to that, but it really was a excellent look behind the scenes about how difficult last year was for Cameron. And to imagine him having to go through somewhat of the same process, I just feel so bad for a player who should and hopefully will always be remembered around here as a legend, full stop. I know you're frustrated. I understand. In the interim right now, it's been tough, but it hasn't been tougher on anybody than him. Important to remember that. All right, we're going to do a little golf coming up. Black Desert Championship over the weekend. Kirk Cragthorpe, 4 o'clock hours, all college football with Scott Mitchell and Josh Furlong. Let's welcome in Ken now from Lifestyle Men's Health. Ken, what's going on, man?
Thanks, man. I'm just excited to, talk to the people on the air about erectile dysfunction. One of the things that I dealt with for over 15 years, and it's not the easiest conversation to have with anyone, let alone your partner. And so one of the things that I was sick and tired of trying all these other remedies that just didn't work. And that's where I met my new partner, Dr. Angela Peterson. We use stem cells, regenerative, to really just fixes the problems, not a Band-Aid. And it's helped change my life along with the testosterone and the peptides, Spence.
And I can speak to that as well. The vitality peptides and the testosterone therapy, the two things that Dr. Peterson and Lifestyle Men's Health have helped me with. So, Ken, whether you're like me and you're a man in your 40s or like you, a man in your 60s, it's never too early or it's never too late to try to find ways to improve your overall health. And certainly these products seem to be very successful in doing that.
Think about it. In Utah, we have a lot of people that take their health serious. And if you're one of those and just can't seem to get over the hump where you feel like you're putting in the time, but you're just not seeing the results, this will help with results. And I believe it's priceless because we're optimizing our health. We have one body. Let's take care of it.
What's that special offer you have for our listeners who give you a call today?
We're going to focus on the ED. So we're going to do 50% off. And you can actually go on. Now, what this helps you with is this gives you a 30-minute free consultation. You can go online and book it. You can call the number that Spence is going to give you here to book it. But whatever you do, book it.
All right, guys, today's the day. Give them a call. It's 385-458-9203. That's 385-458-9203. 385-458-9203 or online at mensclinic.com. Ken, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Thanks, man.
More coming up next right here on ESPN 700. We've got Scott Mitchell joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. Obviously, former quarterback at the University of Utah, long time in the NFL. Josh Furlong, who covers the Utes for KSL. It's a somber Monday for Ute fans, certainly. Coach Witt announcing earlier that looks like Cameron Rising might be done playing quarterback at the University of Utah, either this year or maybe permanently. Only the future will let us know, so we'll kind of wait and see. So we'll get back to some college football, obviously playoff baseball, Monday Night Football. You can hear it on our radio station tonight. It is the Bills and the Jets, but we'll do a little golf. History took place down in St. George over the weekend. The Black Desert Championship, the first ever. Now behind us, Matt McCarty is your champ. Our next guest covers golf here locally. Used to do a few other things as well. He's a legend. Kurt Cragthorpe on a Monday. Kurt, happy Monday, sir. How are you?
Good to be with you, Spence.
I appreciate the time as always. So before we dig into the tournament, as a guy who's done a little bit of everything around here, jazz, college football, and now you kind of settled into covering this game of golf, do you ever miss any of your old beats, or are you happy doing what you're doing now?
I can tell you that I've gone through every possible psychological phase of retirement from the daily newspaper industry, and it's been 5 years now. The 2019 Ute team was kind of my exit stage left opportunity, and it took a good 3 or 4 years to get over that feeling of missing out, but I'm in a better place now.
Well, and certainly you're covering a game that's growing leaps and bounds, and you're covering a sport that has really exploded here locally. I want to start there. What do you think the tournament over the weekend did for the perception of the game of golf as it pertains to the way it's played and presented here in the state of Utah?
Yeah, you can look at it on a number of levels, Spence, and I thought about the fact that we had Utah golfers from ages 17 to 65 actually in the field of a PGA Tour event. Now, obviously, it required sponsor exemptions to make that happen, but that was a pretty cool phenomenon in itself. And then just to be on the grounds and see the crowds, just the volume of people. If anything, I underestimated how people in southern Utah would respond to the PGA Tour, with the asterisk that it is the fall series, and Scottie Scheffler was not walking out of those lava rocks, but people responded well to the tour players that were there, and they were. I give them credit for being smart enough to know that there's a lot of depth of talent on the PGA Tour, and they came out and watched in huge numbers, and it was just an awesome atmosphere, I thought.
So I went down and played the course about 2.5 months ago, and it is awesome. Everything you hear about it. I mean, and I'm not one. I've never been to Abandoned Dunes. I've never been to Torrey Pines. I'm a weekend Utah Muni guy. You can catch me at Bonneville or Mountain Dell, and I love those little tracks. So I was blown away, certainly from my prism. I wonder, as a guy who's seen a lot of golf in a lot of places, just your thoughts on the job they've done building the course and the presentation and the way it kind of showed over the weekend.
Yeah, I just marvel about how they could carve that course out of the lava. I mean, it's just incredible, the whole setting there. And Patrick Fishburne, one of the Utah players on the tour, said people were telling him it was like they'd landed on Mars and were playing golf. It was really remarkable, and it was an interesting venue for spectators. There literally were some holes, as you know from having played it, that some holes is only fairway and lava and nothing else. So there were 3 holes that spectators weren't allowed to access at all. But otherwise, it was pretty spectator friendly. I thought there were a lot of just natural viewing areas, and it wasn't that arduous to walk up and down the cart paths and along some of the fairways, and so I thought people got to watch more golf than they were going to be able to, actually.
You referenced the fact that this is the fall series, and so none of the big dogs were around. I mean that respectfully for a guy like Lucas Glover, who's won a U.S. Open, and a guy like Mike Weir, who's won a Masters. But my question, and honestly, I'm asking to ask because I don't know. I know that this tournament is set to be around for 4 years or so moving forward. Is there any consideration, or what is the process, I'll even ask, to potentially have this tournament played when there's more urgency from some of the big dogs to continue to compete for FedEx points so they can qualify for the playoffs? So one day, Kurt, maybe we all drive to St. George and Scotty Scheffler is walking out of the lava. You think that's something on the horizon?
I do. I really do. Patrick Manning, the managing partner of Black Desert Resort, basically is on the record of saying that will happen within a couple of years. Now, he has a good track record of delivering what he promises, and so I'll take him at that. And I can back it up just with the less declarative statements from some of the PGA Tour administrators who were really impressed with everything that happened. They appreciate the fact that Black Desert basically put this thing on a year earlier than they really wanted to, ideally, and in terms of having the whole resort itself fully operational. And so I think the PGA Tour will be accommodating of the desire to get into the meat of the FedEx Cup season. So I think it's reasonable to say that in 2026, maybe 27, it will be played in the spring.
Well, that's exciting to consider. All right, let's talk about some of the local guys. Let's start with Canada's Mike Weir. I begrudgingly call him a local because I'm told that he is, but there's a Canadian flag next to his name. So I feel like he's from Canada, lives in Park City. Obviously, one of the biggest names here locally, as I said, won a Masters. And he got off to a rip-roaring start and then didn't even make the cut. What fell apart for Mike?
Yeah, that was an interesting phenomenon. First, it was amazing to see him birdie 6 of his first 9 holes on Thursday, and I happened to see him hit a couple wedge shots that were just like the Mike Weir of old, the Masters champion from 2003, and so you kind of had this developing story of him coming off the stress of the President's Cup captaincy and playing so well on his own, but being 54 years old kind of caught up to him. I would think his game's just not quite as sharp, and the back 9 of the course is more difficult, and so he lost 3 strokes to par coming in on the first day, and then had the way it works with how they flip flop. He started the next day on the back 9 and also played poorly and just got away from him a little bit, but it was a respectable showing for sure. It would have been fun to see him make the cut, and if there was a letdown for the whole week from a Utah golf perspective, it was that only Zach Blair made the cut and only finished in 66th place. But I'll go right to Kihei Akina, the senior at Lone Peak High School, who's committed to BYU, and he was a 10-foot birdie putt away from making the cut, which would have been a really cool story. So if albeit him not being able to play the weekend, I thought that was one of the better stories that emerged.
What's going on with the BYU golf team these days? What do they have in the water down there? It seems like that program is churning out really excellent, high-caliber golf talent year in and year out.
Well, and the cool thing to me is, having witnessed BYU golf for the last 50 years, is that it's almost entirely a homegrown team now. Back in the 70s, when I was growing up, worshiping the Cougar golfers, Jimmy Blair was the only one from the state of Utah. The Mike Reeds and Jim Nelfords and Pat McGowans were all from out of state, and like Weir from Canada, Dick Zockel, people like that. So to see a Utahns populating that roster that wins the Big 12 match play last week is pretty cool. And like you say, they're producing tour players now like Patrick Fishburne and Zach Blair, more guys in the pipeline like Peter Quest, and so it's really fun. They've done a nice job, and really what it is a commentary on the Utah Junior Golf Association and how they've just created college level players, and BYU is tending to get most of them now.
So one of the other really cool local stories, and I will admit my ignorance to this until I read about it and watched some local news coverage of Jadon Blake making his 500th PGA Tour start in his own backyard. Now, he didn't golf well, but he's obviously father time comes for us all. But you're a guy that has made his living in stories, right? And this is just unquestionably a really cool story because he himself admitted, like, he never thought he'd be playing PGA Tour golf where he grew up. And to make his 500th and probably his final start, I thought it was a really cool thing.
Yeah, you captured it well. It was just an amazing convergence of events. To think that 499 came 6 years ago in Kentucky, and he thought pretty much that would be the end of it. He tried for some sponsor exemptions in the Las Vegas event at various times and over the years, but to have this opportunity come about and have it be the return of the PGA Tour to Utah, and not only that, to the St. George area where he's truly a lifelong resident, except for his college days at Utah State. Well, it was a cool story. And Jadon is one of the more emotional people you'll ever come across. And so it all hit home with him in multiple ways. And it was cool to witness. He actually played decently the first day, but then not so well the second day. But the part that I took away from it is that he really had a chance to reflect on his career and realized what he had accomplished. I mean, think about the fact that Johnny Miller and Mike Weir have not played in 500 PGA Tour events. Only about 150 guys have, and the PGA Tour had an interesting stat that even of guys that play basically the equivalent of one season, only 6% of those guys will make 500 starts. So it's pretty remarkable career for a guy from St. George, Utah.
So I will admit to having my attention and bandwidth occupied by football, NFL, and college over the weekend. So I only saw highlights. I caught a few things here live here and there. But what happened to Zach? What happened to Zach Blair final round? Because as you referenced, the only local boy who made a cut, but just had a awful final round. I did see he made that triple after a lost ball. But where did Zach kind of lose the plot there?
Yeah, and that was kind of the lurking element of Black Desert Resort is the lava, and I mean it's designed to be a forgiving resort style course with wide fairways and big greens it's a resort philosophy that it's basically easy to play but very difficult to score well. But even for the tour level guys, there were places where it would jump up and grab you, and I watched him play that ninth hole, and by his account, he hit two shots into the lava that missed the fairway by a yard, and that's just the penal nature of it. If you're off, you're completely off, and it's not like just hitting into a river or a lake where you just drop and take your one-stroke penalty. You're stuck with unplayable lies, so the numbers can add up quickly. And also he just didn't putt well. I saw him miss a 4-foot putt on number 16, and he lipped out violently on number 18. So just one of those days. But it's interesting to watch the flow of a 4-day tournament, and when basically all you're playing for is somewhere between 55th and 65th place, it can be a draining of the motivation on Sunday, but it gets interesting now because Zach is now in that classic fall position of trying to stay in the top 125 to keep his card for next year. So hopefully he'll play better in Vegas this week.
And this lands him where, 115? Did I read that? He's now 115?
Yeah, right around there, 116 maybe. But yeah, so it's more volatile than I would have thought. I mean, even by making the cut, he lost 6 spots. So he's got to perform well these last 5 weeks.
All right, so wanted to kind of kick the tires with the crowd participation, how many people were there, how the galleries were, and then was there one golfer? You know, we always, if you watch major tournaments back in the day, a Tiger gallery was always different, right? I'm not saying there was any one golfer that was like that, but was there one golfer that had the biggest gallery throughout the weekend?
Yeah, I would say the local guys captured the biggest volume of people. And the other part is people like me were on that property for the first time ever, and so I think a lot of people just wanted to walk the golf course as much as they were allowed access to, and just to see what it was like. So I just was impressed by just the number of people who were out on the course following various groups, and especially the leaders on the weekend. And so I don't know if there was one big attraction other than people did gravitate toward the guys who were playing well, and also just wanted to get out and see as much of the course as they could. And if I had one takeaway overall, it would be is this thing looked like a PGA Tour event in every way, in terms of the people that were out there and some of the build-outs they did to accommodate spectators. And I was just really impressed with the whole operation and the way people responded to it in southern Utah.
Well, Kurt, before I say you lose, there actually is a golfer who won the tournament that we haven't even talked about that we probably should. So Matt McCarty gets the Battlefield promotion after winning 3 events on the Korn Ferry Tour a year ago. And in his 3rd PGA start, cards at 23 under and holds off, you know, Steven Yeager, Lucas Glover. I mean, some big-time names, some of the bigger names that were down there. You know, Glover made a push at the end where he shot a 62. He's a U.S. Open champ. What do you make of this young golfer getting his first PGA Tour win and his 3rd PGA Tour start?
Yeah, it was incredibly impressive, and what it does show me and should show people in northern Utah, where we have a Korn Ferry Tour event, is just how much talent there is in professional golf, and you got to go to Farmington and see the guys playing the Korn Ferry to appreciate what they're going to become. But here's the ultimate example. He shot 23 under par at Oak Ridge in August and 23 under par at Black Desert in October. And now, albeit all he did was tie for second in Farmington, but that shows you what he's capable of. And what's amazing about the promotion that you referenced, winning those 3 Korn Ferry events, is it all happened from July 21st on. And so to get those 3 wins and then a PGA Tour win is a pretty phenomenal stretch of golf. And he's from Santa Clara, so he played against BYU in the old West Coast Conference days, was in the Cougar Classic down in Provo a couple of times and finished in the top 10. So he has some pretty good Utah vibes going, but he's a really nice kid. I was just impressed the way he handled himself on and off the golf course with the interviews and everything. And so it'll be fun to watch his career. And as you said from the start, history was made down there in the little town of Ivins, and Matt McCarty is a guy we'll remember for a long time now.
Good stuff, Kurt. Man, thrilled that we could have this event in our state and excited that it's going to continue, and look forward to chatting with you more about it and reading your work. Thank you, sir. Have a good week, okay?
Okay, Spence. Enjoyed it.
All right. Kurt Cragthorpe, longtime columnist over the Tribune, covering a bunch of things, jazz, college football. He's settled in now, covering golf for Fairways Media. He's on Twitter at Utah Golfers is where you find Kurt. So a really cool event down in St. George. Sounds like it's going to continue. And according to Patrick Manning, conversations about moving it to the spring, where that would mean Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth. I could go on. The big dogs will be here to play, which is really cool. All right, the 4 o'clock hour tonight is going to be Scott Mitchell. He joins us next to talk Utah football. Then Josh Furlong will stop by after that. So an entire hour of Utah football comes your way. Eric Weddle in the 5 o'clock hour. But let's welcome in Dr. Angela Peterson from Lifestyle Men's Health. Dr. Peterson, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Spence?
I'm good. I feel good, and that's because of you. When we first met, you said you don't really know how bad you feel until you start feeling better. We did a couple of quick blood tests. My testosterone levels, I think, were in like the mid 400s, thereabouts. You said, it's fine, but it's a little low. So let's see what testosterone replacement therapy can do for you. And a year later, I'm sleeping better. I'm down to my preferred weight. My workouts are so much easier because I have more energy. And every time I see somebody, they ask me, like, what have you been doing? You look different. Well, this is what I've been doing. And in addition to that, about 4 months on Vitality Peptides that have kind of added like an extra layer of the same improvements, but have upped the improvements and has made the results quicker. So weight loss, you guys do that. But for me, Vitality Peptides, in addition to testosterone therapy, I can personally attest to. How can you help our listeners?
Well, we can help your listeners with a lot of different things, and we're really not just a one-stop shop. We're here to help you holistically. So we're going to look at what's really going on with your health, and we're going to give you our recommendations for erectile function, for better health, better life. And, change really does happen with Lifestyle Men's Health.
Let's bring in Ken now. So Ken, respectfully, is just a tad bit older than I am. And so, Ken, speak to that portion of our listenership, maybe men in their 50s and 60s that are looking for ways to up their energy and overall improve their health. What would you say to them?
I would say to them that it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm the perfect example. I'm the poster child. For people who have known me, I'm a completely different person, not just physically, but also mentally. It literally is life-changing. And when I met Dr. Angela Peterson, now my partner, it's the reason why I'm doing this.
All right, what's the special offer you have for our listeners who give you a call today?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we've been running a special since we rebranded the Draper office, half off of the ED treatments. But not just that, we're putting some combinations together with the TRT, with the peptides. We have a mobile lab that can actually come to your home or office. We try to make this as easy as possible. So that's the special.
All right, guys, today's the day. If you've been waiting, today's the day to call because that's a great special deal with our friends at Lifestyle Men's Health. Phone number is 385-458-9203. That's 385-458-9203, 385-458-9203, or online at lifestylemensclinic.com. Thank you both so much.
Hey,
thanks, Spence. I appreciate it.
2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Scott Mitchell is our guest coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Josh Furlong's going to stop by coming up in a little bit. Covers the Utes from KSL. Obviously, a sad Monday afternoon for Utah football fans. We've been talking about it all day. Our next guest will either continue to make us sad or lift our spirits on a Monday. Scott Mitchell, which direction would you like to go in on this Monday afternoon?
Spence, it's good to talk to you. I think I could go both ways, actually.
All right. Well,
I have good and bad observations.
Okay, let's start with the good. It's been a depressing day. It's been a depressing show. I hear from Ute fans over the weekend, and a lot of people bummed out, and I get it. But let's start with some of the good that you have to offer us on this Monday afternoon with this football program right now.
All right, here's the good. First Pac-12 championship that Utah went to, they started off the conference schedule 0-2. I remember sitting in the broadcast booth with Bill Riley at Washington State and going, he just looked at me and says, well, this season's over. And I'm like, holy cow, that's just right before it starts. They were able to turn it around, come back, and made it in the conference championship. Of course, when that happens, you got to have a lot of help. And really the conference is kind of all over the place. And there's a lot of football left to play. So it's not certainly the time to panic about the entire season and what's happening. And the other side of that, why it's good, is like Utah's not a bad team. Like there have been a lot of really, really good performances and a lot of good play. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's really good that's not being recognized is the offensive line. And it was a bit of a challenge a year ago. And these guys have done an excellent job of blocking up front and in the run game and also in the pass game. I mean, Cam Rising had plenty of time to throw against Arizona State in most situations, and so a lot of good there that way. Mekhi Bernard's having a great year, and quite frankly, there's a lot of talent on the offense that's just been underutilized because of the quarterback situation. Tight ends are a big part of Andy Ludwig's system. Haven't even heard from them yet, and they're still very good. So a lot of good players, a lot of good things happening, a lot of good play. The secondary play has been pretty good a lot of the year. Some of the defensive linemen have done an exceptional job. Van Fillinger's having a really, really nice year, and you're seeing some of these young players that are kind of stepping in that are going to be good players. Rabbit Davis, I think, is. Anyways, he's the safety, and he's starting, and he played pretty good in the game. Jonnu Hall is a new guy, so there's a lot of good there. And this is a program that has a lot of talent in it, and you just got to figure out the quarterback. Now, the other side of it that I think is good, Spence, is they've made a decision. Like there's no, hey, Cam, okay, he's kind of out, he's kind of not out, we're waiting around. Isaac is just kind of, he's just going to get us through here till we get our guy back. And it's like there's a definitive line, and whether you like it or you don't like it, it's so much easier for everyone to move forward now. You've got a young quarterback who shows a lot of promise, and he's going to get a lot of playing time that's going to really help this football team out now and into the future. But all the players are going to embrace this, and they're going to go, hey, he's our guy. We got to rally around him. We got to play. Isaac's going to feel more comfortable. He's not going to be looking over his shoulder. He's not going to be wondering, am I going to play this week? Am I not going to play? Am I going to get the reps? Am I not going to? We know. And that's a definitive line that I think is a positive. There's nothing against Cam Rising or anything, but it's just been such a challenging and exhausting emotional drain on everybody, fans, coaches, players, that now And I think even Coach Whittingham in bringing it out, because he doesn't normally talk about stuff like this. And I think he just said, enough is enough. We've had it. Let's move forward. That's the good for me.
All right, Scott. That's a lot of good, and I appreciate that. We need it, okay? And I don't disagree with any of it. On the other side, okay, let's go to the other direction. What's the bad right now that is standing out to you the most?
Well, the bad right now is the quarterbacks have not played to a level you have to play in college football to have success. I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care where you are. Your quarterback has got to play. This defense is good, but it's not great, and it's not going to hold people, to 10 or 12 points. They're going to hold them to 20, and you got to score 30 offensively, and you have the weapons to do it. And so it's just been maddening sometimes to see wide open guys not be, accurate passes. It's some poor decisions on interceptions. I mean, last week's game was big plays that you allowed to happen defensively and interceptions, and it just killed this team. And so the quarterback play has been awful, and it's not been the type of play that you can win a championship with. And it's really heartbreaking to me. And Friday night was heartbreaking to me because, my goodness, Cam Rising has done so much for this university, and he elevated the program a lot in his play through the years. And it's just hard to watch him not even be able to move, perform, any of that stuff. And a big part of Cam's game was him being able to run around and run, and he clearly couldn't do that in the game. And so it was just really, really hard to watch. And it's like, Coach Whittingham's probably tearing his hair out. It's like, when do I play this guy? When don't I play this guy? Should I have played Isaac? Should I have benched Cam in the game? And so it's the quarterback play has been challenging. And there's another thing, and I don't know if it's because of the quarterback situation, but it doesn't seem like there's someone there to just take charge of everything. It's like everyone's kind of waiting around for something to happen, and these players aren't taking it upon themselves when they see the momentum kind of going the other direction. It's kind of they're too reluctant, or they're too reluctant to do anything about it. They just kind of let it happen and let it slide away. And this fight and this toughness that you see so much in this, you're not seeing that with this team. And that's where that grittiness that's always there kind of needs to come back, and you're not seeing it. And I'll say this, because I know it bugs me, and it like it eats me up to death. And this doesn't have anything to do with Utah. It's the fact that BYU is doing good right now, and it kills me. I know it kills every Utah fan that we're struggling. We're having a hard time right now, and BYU is on top of the world, and that's just kind of that twist of the knife, when it's in there, and it's one of those. It makes it even worse if you're a Utah fan that your rival down the street is doing so well.
All right, so you referenced the Cam stuff from Friday night, and obviously, when it comes to what you do for a living in this space, you have to identify the stories that listeners want to hear. And I think this is the one thing around here that folks are still kind of honed in on and focused on, just because of the importance of the position. And to your point, Cam's pedigree, his inarguable, undebatable pedigree as a legend up there, full stop, period, end of story. 2 Rose Bowls, 2 Pac-12 championships. He will be in the Ring of Honor one day, and I hope he is given more grace from a fan base that right now feels like they're kind of fed up with him. And I understand being fed up with the ambiguity and not knowing, but lay off the kid. He just got hurt, and he got hurt again. So rolled up on third play of the game, Scott, as you know, and if you haven't watched that replay in slow motion, I encourage you to go back and do it, because I don't know how he's even walking, let alone playing. So Coach Witt, both after the game and then today during his media, referenced the fact that Cameron wanted to play. He wanted to stay in. He refused to be taken out. So I'm conflicted here, because based off of what Cam has done for the school and the team, you should give your leader the chance to prove that he can go. But at what point do you look and realize that there's a lot of damage being done because he just isn't healthy? Now, they moved the ball relatively well prior to half. They just could not score touchdowns. The red zone stuff has been so frustrating. But at what point do you say, okay, yes, Cam, I know you want to play, but you're hurt, you're not right, and it's having a detrimental effect. So give me your thoughts on that dynamic, Scott.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk between rust, because he hasn't played a lot in the last year and a half, and just ineffectiveness. Like where, because that's what I was watching. I was like, okay, was that throw rust? Was that throw just not being in a game, or was that throw he can't throw. And because it looked like before the game, he's like, okay, he's going to be okay. And I even brought it up. I'm like, if I'm Cam Rising, if I'm Andy Ludwig, I'm going, what throws can you make, and what throws to stay away from? And let's not call those plays, because it's only one game. It's not like they're going to figure out what you can and can't throw. Because Arizona State's not going to know that. So let's just figure out at least enough there for you to be effective. And as the game unfolded, it was clear to me that it was really his ability to be effective as opposed to rust. And it's like, yeah, okay, he started to move the ball okay, but there were a lot of throws that guys were open down the field. I don't think he could make the throw. And so he was going to throw kind of shorter routes. So Mekhi Bernard caught a lot of passes, and I don't think Cam was trying to look down the field. I think he's just trying to go, this is the best I got. This is the only thing I got. And then there were some really key throws and key situations that he's been phenomenal getting this team out of. And but a lot of it's been his ability to run. And he's just a master at converting on third downs, and so much of it because he could escape and he could run, and it created problems for the defense. And when he was just kind of a statue stuck there, it was so against his instinct and his nature, and he just, he couldn't throw the ball accurately, he couldn't run. So clearly, he was struggling being effective, and the problem you run into as you go, but he's our guy. He's the guy that, he will find a way. And I think there's all this belief, because there's a whole lot of games I can show you and talk about where he just made phenomenal plays that were so critical to the team winning. And I think everyone's just kind of hoping that would return. And it's a hard reality to come to grips with. I think it was hard for Coach Whittingham to say, and just go, my guy's out, and he's out. And so I think there's, as an athlete, you get in a game, as a coach, you get in a game, you just always believe you're in it. You always believe you can win it no matter what the circumstance is. And I just think that maybe stepping back and getting away from it emotionally and getting away from that kind of belief sometimes, and just say, look, really the best thing for us is for you to shut it down and let the young kid get in there. And that's really going to give us a better chance to win here. And of course, it's easy to say today, but he was really having a hard time being effective in the game.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. I can't turn my mic on and off. It's a different story. So your point about it's easy for us to sit here and play Monday morning quarterback today is well taken. And I don't love that part of this job, but it is part of this job. So do you think there was some sort of breakdown on Friday night? Should it have been Cam maybe acknowledging, because we could all see it, Scott. Every one of his throws were short. He could barely run. And like I said, he got hurt. It's not his fault. You watch the replays, and he got rolled up on, and I thought his leg had snapped in half or his knee exploded again. It was a horrific scene, and I felt for the kid. But whether it's Cam raising his hand and saying, I don't have it today, this injury is bugging me, or Coach Ludd or Coach Witt or whoever, I don't want to call anybody out, but isn't it your job to identify when there's a certain dynamic that clearly is not right, and then make the change if the change needs to be made? Like, was there I'll just ask you, was there a breakdown on Friday?
Well, I think if you listen back in evaluating whether a player should play or not, it's so much of it, as Coach Whittingham has said, is the medical staff. Like if so we're going to lean on our medical staff and what they say, because that's what Coach Whittingham's talked a lot about, Cam and some other injuries and what have you. And Cam got hurt. Coach Whittingham went in the medical tent, and I'm sure there was a lot of discussion in there about where is he? Is he at risk for further injury? Is this something that he can't go with? So I think Coach Whittingham got enough information from the medical staff. And again, I'm just speculating. I don't know this. This is just my observation and opinion. So he probably got the right okay from the medical staff to let him continue to go in the game. I'm sure this has been just driven everyone nuts. You know, when can Cam play? Can he not play? Is he healthy? Is he? And I'm sure it's worn so much on Coach Whittingham, and to a point of, you know, who knows? You know, it just felt like he's damned if he did and damned if he didn't. You know, Coach Whittingham and making a choice about where he played. I think it's kind of like, well, Coach Whittingham said this before. He just said Cam Rising healthy gives us the best chance to win moving forward, just because of his experience and where he is right now. And so I think that's maybe what he was relying on more than anything, is that somehow Cam would pull it out and figure a way to win the game. And so I think that's just kind of where it all ended up.
So, well, a lot of the attention is on the main storyline of the quarterback position, because it has been the biggest story. Well, quite frankly, A, it always is, because it's the quarterback. B, the past couple of years, in 10, 15 years, when we look back on 2023, 2024, it will be with a what could have been, because of the health situation at quarterback. Like I said, Cam Rising is a legend, full stop, who won back-to-back Pac-12 championships and went to Rose Bowls. He will be in the Ring of Honor. He deserves it. He should be celebrated. If this is it for him, which it might be, Scott, we should always look at the things he did to elevate not just the team but the university. Rose Bowls do that. Pac-12 championships do that. Okay, so ultimately he should be talked about as a legend. But while all the attention seems to be on the quarterback position, there are problems in other places where we're not used to seeing problems. Now, sometimes you got to look across the way and tip your cap to the other guy and say Cam Scatabo is awesome. Scatabo went for 158 on 22 carries. 19 missed tackles, though, Scott, and lack of havoc plays. BYU is doing it on a level that we thought Utah would be able to, but the defense, Karene Reed, hopefully he gets back. Sione Fotu, Connor O'Toole. Yes, I know there are injuries, but I think the fan base is over that excuse. You have to have contingencies in place because injuries are part of playing a violent sport. When you see defensive breakdowns this year with this group, what stands out to you the most?
Well, it's big plays. And, you know, this young secondary, which I really like, and I think they're very athletic and they're playing quite well. You know, there have been some plays that they've given up down the field. And that's part of just growing and learning and guys figuring out where to be in the right place and understanding how they fit in the defense. But it's been big plays in the run as well. And you've seen that 2 weeks in a row with Arizona and Arizona State. And it is that where the soundness of gap protection and kind of how some of these players have been reacting, not playing like downhill and guys getting cut off on blocks up front. It's been a little bit of a challenge, and it's kind of been there with Karene Reed not being in the game, because he's such a great leader and he really keeps that whole defense together and gets people lined up and understands where to play. And I think they've missed that leadership, because I agree with you. The missed tackles and the big running plays are things that you don't typically see on a defense like this. And this is a defense that's been around for a long time, and so they know how to coach it, and they certainly have had the players in place, and it felt like they had the players, but not only the players, but the backups. You know, like this was what excited me most about this year, was the depth at defensive line and linebacker and you know, and even in the secondary, but even though it was young and inexperienced. And so Karene, I think, has had a bigger impact on things, and people start seeing, you know, it's this run and it goes to the strong side, and it's the cutback that has been where these big runs have come from, and that's the whole defense not working like it should, and you know, everybody has to kind of fill their spot or something. Now, Cam Scatabo really impressed me. Like he was better than he was a year ago. He was better than he was advertised. and he was so quick and explosive, and really had a great feel for the little soft spots in the defense. And then when he got through there, he's a guy that, well, you really have to get him stopped before he gets going, or he's going to be a problem for you. And he's just relentless. The guy just doesn't quit. And he's big, and so he's a beast. He's a problem. He's a load to bring down. I think Utah could have done better against him last week, but it wasn't brutally bad either.
All right, Scott. So TCU rolls into Salt Lake City Saturday night. The line opened for Utah -7. Utah was a full touchdown favorite. Coach gives his Cam is out. Isaac is in. The line has moved to 4.5. Utah's a 4.5-point favorite. Vegas typically builds in 3 for the home team, so that's Las Vegas telling us they think Utah's about 1.5 points better than TCU, which is pretty stunning based off of where we thought Utah would be and where TCU has proven themselves to be, which is not a great football team this year. It's a conference game. You referenced this earlier. There are still so many things to play for, and I believe there's a very strong chance that one of, if not both of, the Big 12 championship game participating teams will have multiple losses, not just one, maybe even 2 or 3. All the games are manageable, but in fairness, we thought Arizona State was manageable. We thought Arizona at home was manageable as well. I don't really know what to expect the rest of the season. I know what I want to happen. I know what I hope will happen. But starting on Saturday, from both Isaac and the team from a macro view, what would indicate to you that they had a good week of practice and things are just at least heading in the right direction?
Well, I think it's the energy and kind of the tempo and how they play. They come out with a lot of, they're running to the football and they aren't missing tackles, because all of that's just effort. It's so much about effort, and I think if you're seeing the effort, then you're buying into that these guys believe, because they're still trying hard. Goes, hey, I'm just a true freshman. I don't know anything about. I'm just going to play football, and I think letting these guys really get back to the basic fundamentals of things, finding things that Isaac Wilson is confident in, saying to what your strength is such an important aspect of, turning things around. And, we sit as fans and we can't do anything about it. They're the ones that are licking their wounds and getting, charged up, and, hey, we want to be an active participant in the turnaround of what's going on here. And that's the beauty of where they are, is they control all of that. And so you see that energy, you see that enthusiasm, you see that will to play and fight, and that belief. It's just so much about believing, and it's kind of what I think is a little bit of the challenge right now, because this is still a really, really good football team. They just kind of got to get out of their own way here a little bit right now. The other thing I think people, and maybe Utah didn't realize this, and maybe all of us didn't, but if you remember, Utah was picked to be the big boy on the block, and there were some people that were feeling like Utah, it was a step down to be in this conference. So you're always, it's in the back of people's minds. They're going to get their best shot, and that's one of those things where it's almost like you're the champion. You're the it's really hard to and win a or any championship again, because you got the target on you, and you get get a Herculean effort from everyone you play, and you got to really step up, and if you're not ready to accept that change, you can have some humiliating losses. And I'm not saying that's what's happened, but they're going to get everyone's best to you. I mean, because everyone in the conference fans believe they win it. That's the thing. That's why, it's like most everyone in the conference. Hey, it's anyone's deal here, especially now that Utah's faltered, and all of a sudden everyone goes, hey, we really got a shot at this, and so people are going to try, and they're going to try hard.
Well, Scott, appreciate the time on a tough Monday for a lot of Utah football fans. Have a great week ahead, and we'll chat.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, the great Scott Mitchell. Always appreciate Scott's time. We're going to do more Utah football coming up next with Josh Furlong from KSL. Let's welcome in Bob Ibach. We've talked to Bob before. The Utah Hockey Club is on fire. If you're having a bad Monday because you're a Ute football fan, maybe a little love for our hockey team, and Bob's got a great deal to commemorate the start of the NHL in Salt Lake. Bob, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing good, Spence. I hope you are as well. And they lost today. They faced a really good Devils team. But if somebody had told you at the first 4 games of the year you'd be 3-1, you'd take it. And Utah Hockey Club has really gotten off to a fantastic start in their maiden season, coming out there and bringing National Hockey League games to the fine residents out there in Salt Lake City. And we've got something that we talked about briefly a little bit last week, and we're continuing to sell this because we want to sell it all out. We're getting really close. We only have several hundred of these left. We start out with 2,024 of these 2-puck hockey sets. Each puck comes with their own display case. It's a nice acrylic display case. It's fully licensed. It's got a nice gold base to it. They're priced at just $79.95. And in a moment, I'll give out the phone number and website how you can still get your hands on these. I would say we're closing in on maybe 3/4 of the way being sold out, and they won't last much longer. But so if you're considering maybe a idea for the upcoming holiday season, Christmas, these are terrific items. Like I said, $79.90. Get both hockey pucks. It comes with an individually numbered certificate of authenticity. The first puck in the set has the Utah Hockey Club official logo on there. It's an official NHL game puck, by the way, so it makes it really, really authentic. The second puck, one side of that puck will have the inaugural season logo, that in that big game at the Delta Center, the 5-2 Chicago Blackhawks. And on the flip side, we'll list all the players on the Utah roster this very first season. So historically, these pucks will become a real treasure that I know they'll appreciate in value. They always do when you have a maiden season like this. And again, they're only $79.95. Here's how you can get them. There's only 2 ways. They're not being sold at any stores or over at the Delta Center. The toll-free number is 1-800-345-2868. Again, that's 800-345-2868. Or go right to the website. They really look sharp. Take a peek at them in the website there at NIKOsports.com. You can order them there. It's spelled NIKCOsports.com. Again, that's NIKCOsports.com. Or just call them at 800-345-2868. You'll get these in probably by around Thanksgiving time, so you can use them for a stocking stuffer or just for gift ideas for that family member who's really into Utah Hockey Club activities this year and their very first season out your way.
Bob, thanks for the time. Have a great week, all right?
All right, you do the same now. We'll see you, Spence.
All right, coming up on the other side, a little more Utah football conversation. Josh Furlong is our guest. Eric Weddle stops by in the 5 o'clock hour. And we'll say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. The New York Metropolitans have held off several furious rally attempts by the Dodgers so far. It's 6-3. Mets have the lead. It's bottom of the seventh, one out. Shohei Ohtani is marching up to the plate, but no runners on base. Yankees Guardians a little bit later, but we've been talking a lot of college football today, as you would imagine. Our next guest covers the Utes for our good friends at KSL. He is Josh Furlong on a Monday. Josh, do you have a Major League Baseball team that you like to pull for?
Yeah, I'm a Yankees fan.
That a guy, Josh. I knew I liked you. Me, you, and Coach Witt. You know, just three guys that love football and the Yankees, yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. We should all go tailgate. You know, do what we need to.
Love it, love it. Well, obviously, it's a somber Monday for Ute fans, and I've heard from a lot of them over the weekend. I'm sure you did as well. And you know, I think it's fair to ask questions top to bottom right now. I think it's fair to probably admit most of us, including myself, maybe have overestimated who this team could be this year. I think it's also fair to say it all looks different if Cam is healthy from day one and stays healthy all year. I think all those things are fair, but just big picture today, where are you at with the current state of Utah football?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tricky question in some respects, right? Because I think – sure, in theory, everything's still on the table, right? Like Utah can still mathematically get to a Big 12 championship, but I don't think that's kind of the focus right now. Honestly, I think it's building towards the future, and I know nobody wants to hear that, but I think you're looking at somebody like an Isaac Wilson who now becomes your starter. You're doing what you can to be able to give him the reps that he needs to be able to build that confidence to make sure that he is getting ready for next year. And I know they're not fully punting toward next year. But at the same time, I think you kind of have to look at that, right? And if everything goes well and Isaac continues to win games for you or get you in a position to compete, then maybe that changes things for you. But I think right now you're doing what you can to be able to, you know, send the seniors out or those guys that may be expiring their eligibility to give them the best opportunities they can. Because some of those guys are going to have, you know, NFL futures, and you want to make sure that they can shine. And so I think it's just doing whatever you can to possibly make sure you do the best with the opportunities you have, right? Like I think college football playoffs is pretty much out of the picture, especially with you know, where Utah's sitting. But I think, you know, it's one of those where you're going to see what this team is made of, especially now that you know who your starter is, and there's no more lingering injury questions hanging over the team, at least in terms of the starting quarterback job. You know, this team could either, you know, rally and do well and really make something of the season, or it could really spiral and you're looking at a season that, you know, could have been based on the way things shake out. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom yet. But I think, you know, you're starting to see the tone of this season change for sure.
All right, so let's get to Friday night, and I'm honestly conflicted about this. I've had a couple of guests on today, Scott Mitchell, Eric Weddle. I understand, and Kyle said both after the game and during his media today, that Cam badly wanted to play. Okay, so rolled up on third play, as we all know, and if you watch that replay in slow motion, it looks awful. I'm stunned that he played, stunned that he walked, and I get that your seventh-year senior quarterback who won back-to-back Pac-12 championships and took a couple of teams to Rose Bowls, has built-in equity and sweat equity and deserves to be included in decisions. But it became pretty apparent, Josh, that even though they were moving the ball here or there, the red zone stuff continues to be just so bad. It became pretty apparent that Cameron couldn't move. He couldn't run and get out of trouble. He couldn't plant that foot and make throws the way we're accustomed to seeing him make throws. And it's easy for me to sit here and play Monday morning quarterback and say what would have happened if Coach Witt or Coach Ludd decided that Cam wasn't right. Or is the onus on Cameron to raise his hand and admit that things just aren't feeling? I don't know where to go with this. Ultimately, for me, it became pretty apparent just watching the game that he wasn't right. I don't know if it's a communication breakdown, but what are your thoughts on just whatever dynamics were in play that ended up, in my opinion, having Cameron out there when he wasn't right and wasn't healthy?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this isn't on Cam, right? I think, you know, he's a guy that kind of sees that his eligibility is expiring. He sees that because he's injured and this is a serious injury, that this might be his last chance at being able to play at Utah, that you're not going to necessarily want to put that in his hands. And it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be a player's decision within reason to play. This becomes a head coach, offensive coordinator type call where they have to say, look, Cam, like, we appreciate what you've done, all the things that you've done, but we need to win this game. And if they're serious about being a team first attitude, like, you have to be able to put that on there and not just go with the loyalty card of, you know what, you've done so much for us, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Now, with that said, like, I understand where they came from. I understand that that's not an easy decision, and you're not just going to bench a guy just because. But Kyle's always talked about that you have to put the guy out there that is going to give you the best shot. And at the end of the day, they didn't. They didn't do that for Utah. And so you're sitting here, you're looking at the team, they're frustrated. They know that Cam can't go. They know how much he means to the team. But at that point, you're being a liability more than anything. And it became a situation where Kyle kind of got to the point where he was too loyal to his guy. And that's not a knock on Cam, right? Everybody can look at this and recognize that Cam has been the hero for Utah for a long time. Unfortunately, he's one of those players that we're always going to look at that, if not for injury, what could have been. But it's a situation where Kyle had to make the decision, and he decided to go with the loyalty card. And I don't want to sit here and say that's a bad thing, but if you're trying to stay in contention for a college football playoff, trying to stay in contention for a Big 12 championship, you've got to play the best quarterback. And that's not to say that Isaac would have gone in there and necessarily done a better job, but I think a healthy Isaac Wilson gave you a much better situation than what Cam was giving you, because he couldn't even make the check down pass, right? He couldn't make that 5-yard pass. It was at the guy's feet. They were getting frustrated. That doesn't bode well for a team trying to rally it, in the game and trying to beat a team. So at the end of the day, I think, personally, I think they made the wrong decision, and I think they wanted to be able to give Cam what he needed to, but it just wasn't the right move. And now you're sitting at 4-2 trying to figure out what to do and seeing if you can salvage a season in a way that's going to be beneficial for your team.
So the possibility was floated out this morning of Cameron coming back next year for an 8th year of eligibility. Obviously, only time will tell if that's going to manifest and take place. But Eric Weddle earlier was adamantly against it. And I want to be careful here. You can go listen to the comments yourself up on our podcast page. But when I floated that possibility out, Eric said, if it was up to me, there's no chance he's coming back. It's just time to turn the page, time to move on. Now, in my opinion, as somebody like you, like probably most people listening to this show, we all went to college with the idea of finding something to do to make our way through the world. Find a career, find a job, make a connection, forge a relationship where you end up working for somebody that you met in school or whatever. And I think most all of us, if given the opportunity to be paid a couple of $1 million to do what we enjoyed doing while in college, we probably would have taken that and ran with it and done it as long as we possibly could have to kind of make that kind of money. So I would understand if Cam decided that he wanted to give it another go. And if he's paid 7 figures again to come back next year, that's probably the best thing for him, because at this point, what do we say about his pro prospects? But I understand Eric's side of things too, where it's like seeing the same movie over and over. Maybe as a program, you've just decided to move forward. What's your opinion, Josh?
Yeah, I'm more on the line of what Eric's saying. I don't think it would be a wise decision for Utah to even to entertain this. Don't even put it in his corner. And I know they'll talk it out with him, and then hopefully they talk to him in a way that is beneficial where he can make a right decision. But I don't think this is beneficial for Utah. Even if you do say you can come back, which I don't think it'll happen, I have to think you have to entertain the idea that just no matter what, Isaac is your starter. You have to look to the future. You can't continue to handicap your program in a way where, Cam, sure, he could maybe play a full healthy season, and that's a great situation for Utah. But I think they're at a point now where the odds are against them for that. Turn this into something where you say, look, come be a coach on our sidelines, grad assistant or something, come help us still be a part of the team, help these guys in what you need to do, help Isaac, whatever that may need to be. But I don't know a world where this really benefits anybody. It's going to make things much more difficult. It's not going to make it an easy situation for Isaac. And at the end of the day, you're trying to build consistency and camaraderie around the guy that you want to be your starter. And that's not to say Cam can't be that guy. I just think we're kind of at a point with the team, with the fans, with everybody, where Cam just kind of needs to move on and kind of ride out to sea, so to speak, or do whatever you need to move on. I just don't see an advantage there. And, ultimately it will be their decisions. But I think Utah would be smart just to say, look, if you want to still stay with the team, it has to be in a coaching capacity.
How old are you, Josh?
I am turning 40.
Oh, you're young. Are you married with kids?
I am.
All right. So I'll say in 40 years, when you're retired, hanging out, doing what you want to do at that age in life, and your grandson runs and jumps on your lap and he says, "Grandpa, tell me about Cam Rising." What will you say? If this is it, and it might be, what will you say to your grandson when he asks you about Cam?
To me, I think this is one of those where you say he's the ultimate competitor. He's the guy that would sacrifice everything he possibly could to get Utah to win games. He wanted to do everything right by Utah. He was the friend. He was the guy that builds everybody up, the guy that has the swagger. He's the guy that Kyle would call the alpha dog. This is a guy that was the player that you want under center. At the end of the day, he's going to be remembered as well as a guy that he was injury prone, right? Like you look at these players in the NBA or the NFL, and they have so much potential. And I'm not saying he was going to have some shining career in the NFL, but I think you look at what potential could have been there if not for these injuries, what it could have been. But at the end of the day, I don't think that any of this mars his legacy or what he is. He brought the Pac-12 championship to Utah twice, back-to-back years, in a very difficult time for the program. If anything, that gives him so much street cred and ability to be able to show that he means something to this program, and I think he'll be remembered in that, especially as time goes on. But unfortunately, I think some of the recent stuff is going to change the opinion of some people, but I don't think that should hurt his the remembrance of Cam and kind of who he was as a player.
As we've talked about all show long, Josh, the most newsworthy element of what happened on Friday and what's happened with Utah football over the weekend is the new injury to Cameron and Isaac being installed as QB1. But the fact of the matter is the problems are more widespread than just who's been under center. Now, that's been a big deal, certainly, because it always is with that position. And as Coach Wood outlined earlier today in his presser, passing numbers for Utah football in the conference basically last all around. But it'd be one thing if there was one issue. There's not. And I know there's health issues defensively as well, but 19 missed tackles, very few havoc plays, as Coach Wood talked about. What do you make of what we've seen on the defensive side of the football? And are reinforcements on their way as early as potentially Saturday against TCU?
Yeah, I think this is a defense that has the talent, right? Like they're a unit that knows what to do. They're coached well. The problem is, I think there's just a lack of communication. And, having a guy like Karene Reed, which, I've been on your show and talked about Karene, the last few weeks, just talking about how integral and important he is to that defense. When you don't have a guy that can kind of rally the troops and kind of get them going, it's tough, right? And as much as you want to blame the injury bug, and it is a real thing and something that is factored into this, at the end of the day, it's a defense that just has to come together and communicate better. They're all trying to get their reps and trying to figure out how to do it. But if one piece of that defense isn't clicking at the same time, it creates a problem. I mean, I think this defense is actually pretty solid. It's not, I don't want to sit here and say that it's, this defense that we're used to seeing from Utah, because it's not. But at the same time, they have the same ability. It's just they're getting beat on these big runs, right? Like you look at Cam Scatterbo, and yes, he had a tremendous game, but you take away two of his big runs, the 50-yarder and the 47-yarder, and his numbers are much more manageable, right? Still not where Utah wants it to be, especially where they held them the year before. But it's kind of maintaining that throughout the game. Utah's done well in the first and second down. Then they get into third and fourth down this year, and things kind of change, right? They lose, containment, and they lose this discipline that allows them to be able to keep everything in front of them. And suddenly there's a first down, or suddenly it's a big play, and now they're kind of on their heels trying to figure it out. And then, I think some of the offensive struggles have worn out on them as well. This is the second year in a row where they're tired of dealing with it, and so you're just going to see some frustration on that end. But I don't think all is lost. I think it's just you need to kind of figure out who you are, figure out how to get all 11 players playing at the same time in the right mindset. If not, you're still going to have these problems. You're going to have mobile quarterbacks that escape. You're going to have running backs that are going to find the holes, and it's just continually going to snowball, and it's not going to work. So not all is lost, but it's definitely not a situation where Utah's looking at this saying this is the defense that we're used to seeing.
All right, we'll end on a positive note. Utah football can win out, go 6-0, beat BYU at home. Iowa State at home, Colorado and UCF on the road. Of course, it starts with TCU. Utah football wins out, Josh, if what?
If Isaac Wilson can score in the red zone, we're just going to go with that. Let's actually make this easier. If Utah can just simply get some production in the red zone, I think this team's fine. I think they need some momentum. They need some swagger. If they can get some of those scoring at a higher clip, not just field goals, but touchdowns in the red zone, I think this becomes a much easier system for Utah. Now, that seems pretty obvious. I mean, that's obviously if you score more points, you're going to win more games. But I think that's really what's been the biggest problem for Utah. If they can figure out a way to score in the red zone, I still think, this schedule isn't so difficult that they are in a challenge. Now, that BYU game becomes a much bigger challenge, and I think that's tough. But I think they've got enough pieces that even if they have these lapses on defense, even if they have these lapses occasionally on offense, if they can at least be, execute in the red zone, and if the play calling can match up with what they need, I think this is a Utah team that still has pretty much everything on the table, and they can do what they need to. But that's the area where it has to improve the most.
Josh, you're the man. Appreciate the time. Hopefully better days ahead. Have a great week, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds great. Appreciate it, man.
Josh Furlong from KSL. You can get his work online at jfurKSL is where you find him. Our good friends at KSL.com. All right, brought to you today by Advanced Window Products. Our good friends Jake Weber, Nate Orchard, of course, the mayor of Sac Lake City, one of the best to ever do it for the Utes. It's a great local company run by the best people, good community families here that want to take care of other families in the community. So, sales and installation all in-house. They do no middleman markups. They build, install, and guarantee for life. It's the best window replacement company in the state. They've got lifetime warranties that you can transfer to the next homeowner if you're selling your home. But here's the deal. If you need windows now, you should call today. But if you anticipate needing windows in a couple of months, maybe you're going to sell your house or something, you can call today and lock in a savings of $2,500 when you purchase 10 windows or more. So beat the rush and order today from the factory to the front door in 8 weeks or less. The phone number is 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or online at advancedwindows.com. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Keep it right here on a Monday on ESPN 700. Pretty intriguing Monday Night Football game as the New York Jets have moved on from their head coach, Robert Saleh, and they welcome in the Buffalo Bills. Bills are really good. Jets are not very good. Buffalo's a 1.5-point favorite. James Cook is not going to play. That just broke. So some rough news for the Buffalo Bills running back. He's going to be out tonight. The Jets are home. Aaron Rodgers, throw Rogan. It's healthy for now. Fun weekend of pro football. Do you know how to do the gritty? Can you do the gritty?
Like the dance move?
Yeah. Do you know how to do that?
Kind of, but not really.
I think I'm going to work on it. It looks like a cool thing to do if you know how to do it. Now, most white guys can't dance, but I can cut up a rug. I can move.
I was going to say, I've heard you can dance.
Oh, no, I can move. But I'd have to put in some work here. I think I want to perfect a gritty, and then after I do, since we're on YouTube now, after I do a good interview, I think I'm just going to do the gritty in the studio.
I mean, you're getting with the times, right? We are streaming, so maybe some folks on YouTube would like to see you do the gritty. You know who's a really bad grittier?
Bill Riley.
Britton Covey. I shouldn't say bad. It's unique. It's very white guy from Provo.
You ever seen Bill dance?
No.
Yeah, it's not good.
Elaine style?
A little bit. We love our guy. Obviously the voice of the Utes. But I've never. Did Britton do the gritty in a game?
He did it at a NFL style. There was something. I think he was showing his teammates or something, and the Eagles social team and the Eagles had a fun time with it.
Why do white guys look so awkward when they try to dance?
It's just part of the game, man.
Again, I can move.
Some of them.
Most. Let's be honest. Most. That, and as Jerry Seinfeld said, it's always awkward when a man tries to sing. Like if you're hanging out at a party and the dude breaks out the guitar.
Yeah.
Like I was at a family reunion a couple of years ago, and a cousin of mine didn't even tell us. And I turn around and he has his guitar and he's singing like a John Mayer song.
Right.
And I was trying to say hi to my aunt. It's always awkward when a man sings.
It is. I have friends and family who are remarkable musicians, so I'm allowed. I allow them.
Like you and I.
But yeah, there's a
musicians.
There's a person,
different.
a time, a place.
Yeah, just say your daughter's getting married, and you're like, I've been working on.
I want to play this song at my daughter's. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what?
I feel you.
I appreciate the endeavor. It's like a nice gesture, but it's never good.
Right.
And everyone just feels weird, and you want it to end. Anyway, I'm going to work on the gritty. That was my point.
Okay, you should work on maybe it's some tunes too. If we're streaming stuff, we should get your guitar on air.
See, I can play the guitar, but I will never be a guitar guy at a party. Nobody likes that guy.
That's fair.
All right. You give me a hot take on the Cam Isaac dynamic before we say goodnight. We haven't heard much from you on this today. It's obviously the big news of the day today that Cam is potentially done. Maybe for good, playing quarterback at the U, and the job's Isaac. So what's the Porter Larson take today?
Yeah, well, the take on it's two-sided, right? Because this isn't black and white. This isn't a situation that you can discuss in definitives. This is a situation regarding a kid who's had a 7-year college football career, completely derailed by injuries, yet still brought 2 Power 5 championships to a school who had never seen them. So the story about Cam Rising is going to be complicated, but I don't know that it should be. I think that there's a lot of noise around Cam right now, and there's a lot of folks who are adding to that noise. And I think the vast majority of those folks in 2, 3, 4, 6 years, whatever it may be, are going to look back, and at that time, Spence, 4 or 5 years down the road, we may be looking at a Utah football team who still only has 2 Power 5 championships. I don't know what the next 3 or 4 years look like. So I think that right now it's easy to be frustrated, to be uncertain about the situation under center for the University of Utah. I don't really think the Cam situation is that complex. I think it's a kid who plays his heart out, is a true competitor, and unfortunately wasn't able to keep himself available as much as Utah wanted, and that put them, Spence, in a really, really tough spot. All of those things can be true. The NIL stuff that added a complicated layer to it can be true, but ultimately the actual on-field stuff with Cam is simple. He is one of the best quarterbacks to ever walk through here. Wish we would have seen him more and more available. But sometimes that's not how this sport plays out. And so thinking of Cam, proud of Cam's career and wondering what that does look like going forward. And with Isaac Wilson, that's also kind of a convoluted situation where you have a really, really young player who I am confident and I'd say optimistic about what he can be in the future. But I also think, Spence, and this Oklahoma State game where he went out and got a win in his first start may have a lot to do with it. I also think people got a little too confident too quickly. And part of that played into the pressure on Kyle, on Cam, on Isaac, and that whole quarterback room situation. And I think it created a tough spot for the Utes to orchestrate and figure out. I don't know that they navigated it perfectly. I don't think I would have been able to navigate it perfectly with how it went down. So confident in the future of the quarterback room, a little bummed about the present of the quarterback room. Also, Spence, excited to see what Isaac can do in these next 6, however many games, because I do think that there is a lot of improvement that he needs to make to be the starter for this team and to put them on a path to compete for a Big 12 championship. And hopefully that's something that they can do in the near future.
Yeah, the higher the expectations, the harder the fall when the team doesn't play the way you thought. So I know there are a lot of bummed out Ute fans. I'll repeat what I said earlier. I am old enough to remember when you basically cheered for a win over BYU and bowl eligibility, and if you got that, it was all good. I know it's a different era, but I think there's a little bit of entitlement, a little bit of spoiled element. That's what happens when your team wins all the time. And now's not the time to jump ship, man. Now's the time to rally behind these young men and try to help them move on with some really trying circumstances for the second year in a row. I know you're frustrated, but Utah football back at it coming up on Saturday against TCU. All right, Porter, what comes our way on a Tuesday edition of the show?
On a Tuesday edition of the program, Spence, we'll chat with Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus. Of course, he's the host of the College Football Show on PFF, so looking forward to chatting with him. We'll update our Big 12 Power Poll, every team in the conference and where they rank.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Where's Utah going to be this week?
We'll check in with Amy Donaldson, of course, an entire hour with Amy. She has a fun new project that is debuting over the course of the next week or so. The trailer is actually out as we speak. And then hoping to catch up with the voice of the Utes, one Bill Riley, on a Tuesday.
All right, there you go. That will be an excellent Tuesday show, so join us for that. And we'll say goodnight for this Monday. Special thank you to Eric Weddle, Kirk Cragthorpe, Scott Mitchell, and Josh Furlong. If you missed any of the sound from the show today, head to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our app and take us on the go. You can listen to Utah football games, listen to Dan Patrick, the OC Show, or The Drive with Spence Checketts all day long. And finally, speaking of The Drive with Spence Checketts, check out our podcast page. 4 hours over the podcast page. You can listen to which part of it you want to listen to on your time. Call The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's available wherever you get your shows. He's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Monday Night Football, Bills and Jets come your way. Coming up next, we'll talk to you tomorrow right here on ESPN 700.